Why does your gas seem to run out faster than your buddy on a dive? It's not luck, it's technique, and there are definitive ways to improve. I used to suck down gas like it was a race to the finish line. Now, I can stretch dives to near about 90 minutes on a single tank, of course, depending on some depth variables, which we'll discuss later. In this video, I'll share 5 proven techniques that will help you burn less gas, dive longer, and enjoy every minute of the underwater world with more comfort and control. By the end, you'll know how to tune your weighting, breathing, warmth, streamlining, and kicks so your gas lasts. And you won't be the one that everyone's disappointed with in a dive group because you brought them up early. Let's dive in. Buoyancy is the foundation of every other skill you do underwater. If buoyancy is off, you waste energy fighting the water and waste gas chasing your depth. If buoyancy is tuned, everything else becomes easier, safer, and more enjoyable. Think back to your last dive and be honest about how often you tapped that inflator or deflator button. Every one of those corrections uses a tiny bit of gas, but more importantly, creates small depth swings that make you work harder. The goal is neutral buoyancy, hovering without sinking or floating up, steady enough to task load like reading gauges, observing wildlife, and taking a photo without stirring the bottom. Many divers are overweighted with lead that they take with them because it feels safe on the surface and at the start of a dive. But extra lead forces you to use your buoyancy control device or BCD more to compensate, which increases drag, adds task loading, and burns more gas. It can also become a safety issue if your BCD fails and you cannot establish positive buoyancy without ditching weight. There are some great techniques called pre and post dive weight checks that I go over in depth in this video here. Check it out after this one. It's a game changer. Once you have your weighting locked in, controlling your buoyancy becomes way more easier. And once you lock in your ability to keep depth with that buoyancy, suddenly ascending and descending become easier too. Further, your ability to move in trim and with much less drag feels much more natural from there. It's a cascading effect that not only makes scuba diving much more fun, but uses a lot less of your energy and thus keeps you from breathing and working hard. You'll see definitive gains in your gas consumption. The next step is fine-tuning microbursts instead of big correction. Anticipate rather than react so you never chase your depth. Ideally, you should never be holding down the button for a very long period of time. Instead, you want to add air to your BCD and release air from your BCD gradually over time. Add a short, precise puff of gas rather than a long hold on the inflator. Take starting to dive, for example. Instead of dive bombing down to the ground like you're jumping out of an airplane, add gas gradually as you descend to control your descent and even stop to match your dive buddy. On the other end, when you're ascending, you can use a quick and even very quick tug of your dump valves to let a small puff of gas out of your BCD to control the rate of ascension gradually. And by the way, I prefer dump valves as I rarely use inflator to dump gas for buoyancy changes beyond just the start of the dive. The key is to just be familiar with your dump valves and they're just so much easier to use. So if you're using this dump valve, which is going to be at top of your BCD, you would want to go up, positive trim, keep your body up, pull dump valve. You can even grab your BCD and fill air in it and then pull the dump valve, let some air out. Likewise, if you're using your lower dump valve, you would go negative trim, let the air collect in your BCD. One quick tug, it'll release plenty of air and that should neutralize your buoyancy fairly quickly if you're ascending. And while you are neutral with your BCD, your lungs can become your main precision control of your depth to the point where your slow rise and fall of your breathing allow you to nearly hold neutral. This works because you breathe in. You start accelerating positively, but then you breathe out, and at the same cadence, you begin to accelerate negative. If you breathe consistently, these cancel out through all but a gentle and small rise and fall overall. A deeper inhale typically adds 2 or 4 pounds of buoyancy, roughly 1 or 2 kilograms, which is enough to change depth gently by tens of centimeters without touching the BCD. A longer relaxed exhale removes that buoyancy and lets you settle back to your set point. So in practice, when you're breathing, it feels like you're bobbing up and down, but effectively that's just the accelerants going up and down, but nearly canceling each other out. So your buoyancy, your depth actually stays about the same if you're breathing calmly and consistently. That's pretty cool. Practice a simple hover drill in calm water. It's an excellent drill to do while diving or at least during your safety stop. Pick a fixed depth or a reference on the reef and hold position for 3 to 5 minutes without using your hands or finning. Track your maximum deviation and work it under 1 meter or 3 feet over that 3 to 5 minutes. You'll find it takes a considerable amount of skill, but what you're building is that natural muscle that will help you hold that buoyancy even when you're not thinking about it in the future. Expect hovering to feel twitchier in the top 5 meters or 15 feet because small volume changes create a bigger buoyancy swing. Embrace that challenge because mastering control near the surface pays off in ascents and safety stops and shore exits. I also want to note that while we're hovering, we are not practicing holding your breath. You're not going to hold your breath for 3 to 5 minutes. It is cheating, but also dangerous since it can lead to a habit of holding your breath, which can cause lung overexpansion if you're ascending without realizing. That's why we must always breathe in and out calmly. It's better to have a consistent rise and fall and calm breathing pattern than holding your breath. That's not to say you never hold your breath. If you're completely neutral, you can hold your breath, but that's not something we practice for. Like the only time I hold my breath is maybe if I'm taking a photo, but even then that's dangerous. So I must accept that risk and trust my buoyancy control under those cases. And so if you're a new diver, the key is never hold your breath. And ideally, we make a strong habit of always breathing. Next, let's talk about posture. It can be used to support buoyancy control. Flatten your trim so your body presents the smallest possible profile moving forward. Keep your knees bent gently, fins lifted and head straight up so you can see without craning, and your butt flexed. And avoid sculling with your hands because it masks buoyancy mistakes and wastes energy. It's just not a practical thing to do. And by the way, if you're having trouble with trim, you're not alone. I have a video for that too that will help correct and fix trim and balance issues. You can check it out after this video here. The payoff for precise buoyancy is real and measurable. Divers with solid control often use up to 25% less gas, stir up less silt, get closer to wildlife, and feel calmer from start to finish on a dive. Now that you're hovering with ease, let's lock in that skill that most directly controls your gas consumption, your breathing. Efficient divers don't just breathe, they breathe with purpose. Your breathing pattern sets your physiology, your buoyancy micro-adjustments, and your mental state for the entire dive. Here is a simple rhythm that we touched on earlier, but you will find change everything more in depth. Use a 4-second deep inhale and a 4-second deep exhale. That cadence, more importantly, keeps rising and falling at about the same time. Why does it work? Slow, deep breaths give more time for oxygen uptake and, more importantly, help carbon dioxide clear your body. CO2 or carbon dioxide is the primary driver that urges us to breathe, and high CO2 makes you feel breathless and anxious. And CO2 can stick around in your regulator hose. So it's better to take a hit with a lot of O2 coming in from a deep breath versus a small, shallow breath, which will take back in more CO2. And that's why deep breaths win over shallow breath. A longer, relaxed exhale helps prevent CO2 buildup and reduces that panicky I can't get enough air sensation. Oh, and by the way, this is the exact reason you should not make it harder to breathe from your regulator either. For those with a adjustable venturi valve or an adjustment lever on their second stage regulator, some may mistake the resistance from the regulator will help consume less gas. But for this reason, I hope you see that you should not make things harder to breathe at all. In fact, the exact opposite. You want to make your regulator easier to breathe. And there's a psychological benefit too. Deliberate breathing signals your nervous system that you are safe, which lowers heart rate, reduces stress spikes, and stops that spiral into rapid, shallow breath. Train this pattern on land first to build instinctive breathing patterns. Sit tall with one hand on your chest and one on your belly. Inhale for 4, with the belly rising more than the chest, and exhale for 4 with the belly falling and the shoulders relaxed. The timing should be similar for both. Practice in short sets, such as 5 cycles, and you can even practice this daily. Then take the rhythm into a pool with mask and snorkel, and finally in open water with a full kit. The trick is to find something that we use for our buoyancy control practice. Find a reference point and just look at it, seeing how long you can bob up and down with your breathing alone and how little depth change you can deviate from your breathing. Of course, this is also practicing your buoyancy control at the same time. The goal is a comfortable cadence that you can maintain for the entire dive without strain. If a swell or task bite bumps your breathing faster, let it smooth out over time back to that 4-second rhythm rather than trying to get back there immediately. This naturally also helps your heart rate calm slower as well. And before you start tasking yourself, for example, you can take one deliberate 4-count cycle before you deploy an SMB, unclipping a spool, or starting a descent into mild current, or approaching a skittish subject for a photo. In fact, whenever doing task loading things, always focus on breathing and buoyancy first. Pause, relax, and then resume the skill once you have control of those. Buoyancy control and breathing over skills. Everything is going to go really south and the way you don't want if you don't have buoyancy and breathing under control. So it's better, no matter what's happening, to get those under control first and then the skill second. Link the breathing to your hover drill that we did for buoyancy control so that you can feel how a slightly deeper inhale lifts you a few centimeters and a slightly longer exhale settles you gently back. Also, use breathing as a calm down protocol if you feel anxiety or task loading creeping in. You will naturally breathe a bit slower or a bit faster depending on work rate, temperature, and current, while keeping the exhale longer than the inhale. Efficient breathing smooths your movement, lowers your workload, and protects your gas for the most interesting parts of the dive. Now, let's address a sneaky gas thief that many divers underestimate: getting cold. But first, if you're enjoying this video, now is a great time to like and subscribe. It helps this video be seen by other divers and grow on the platform. I post weekly content to help divers grow their skills, build confidence, and explore the ocean with curiosity and care. And by the way, if you're interested in being up to date with the latest and greatest in scuba diving, I have a monthly scuba diving newsletter that I send out for free. And all you have to do is look for the link in the description of this video and subscribe. All right, next we're going to talk about warmth. Water pulls heat from your body about 20 times faster than air. So temperature control is essential if you care about gas economy. Even if you feel fine at the start, 40 minutes later, your core temperature can drop and your breathing effort increases. When you are cold, your body spends more oxygen just to stay warm, which means more gas leaves your cylinder for the same amount of work. Cold also changes circulation and workload in ways that may increase decompression stress, which is another reason to keep heat on your side. Ironically, the more efficient you get with buoyancy and finning, the easier it is to feel cold because you are generating less heat with less movement. This is why it becomes important to match your exposure protection to the dive plan, not just the headline water temperature. Consider depth, time, and task load, current, because all 4 can affect your overall heat management. Choose a wetsuit or dry suit that errs on the warmer side of the time they expect to spend at depth. If you are on the fence between 2 suits, go warm and manage heat at the surface rather than wishing for more neoprene halfway through. That's not going to happen, but it's wishful thinking. Add a hood if your head ever feels chilly, because an exposed scalp bleeds heat too and triggers faster breathing. Use gloves that actually fit so you do not waste dexterity or grip strength. If you dive dry, match your undergarments to the water and the plan, and confirm your suit inflator and exhaust are functioning smoothly. Another option too is also to use a heater for your core, which you can optimize your time using for the second half of the dive, as it's always more important to warm while ascending, because that's going to help you with decompression. Also, staying relaxed matters as much as staying warm. Stress bumps breathing rate and heart rate, which chews through gas and reduces your ability to fine-tune buoyancy. Whenever you feel tension climb, return to that 4-count cadence for breathing and notice your shoulders drop and your jaw unclench. Build confidence through practice in familiar conditions before adding complexity. Rehearse mask, DSMB deployment, and valve drills in calm water and regularly so they feel routine when environment adds pressure. The key is the more you do these things, the more natural they feel and the less effort you need to do with thinking about what to do. Like if you deploy a DSMB 1,000 times, you're not going to be worrying about all the steps and trying to remember all the steps. It will feel automatic. And so when the time comes, you need a DSMB to save your life, it just feels natural. You don't feel stressed about deploying DSMB. You just know, okay, time to deploy DSMB. That's so much less stress and it keeps you calmer. So ultimately, warm and relaxed divers commonly save up 15% of their gas and feel better during their ascents and safety stop. That is real time for enjoying the dive and finishing fresher rather than chilled and spent. Now that you are comfortable and calm, let's strip away another silent gas drain, drag from messy gear. Imagine swimming with a parachute tugging behind you, and you will understand what a loose kit does underwater. Dangling gauges, flopping octos, bulky pockets, and swimming accessories create drag that you must overcome with every single kick. They also become entanglement hazards at the worst possible moments. Run a 30-second Streamline check before every dive during your pre-dive check. Check all the divers diving with you. Make sure everyone's streamlined. Stand in your kit and look for anything that hangs, snags, or swings. Route your SPG clearly and clip it where you can see it so that it doesn't flop or drag in any possible way. Secure your alternate second stage close to your chest or on a clean breakaway mount that you and your buddy both understand how to use it. Stow reels, lights, and tools in your pockets or neatly on your kit so they do not balloon your profile. Use bolt snaps that fit your gloves and muscle memory so clipping and unclipping is quick and quiet. Fit also matters more than brand for your gear. A BCD that shifts or lets your tank rock will waste effort and attention. You want to snug the harness so that the cylinder stays stable on your steer line and does not lever your hips down. Adjust the cummerbund or waistband so the unit does not ride up at the surface or sag at depth. And your suit should fit close without restricting your shoulder or breathing so it does not flap or pump water through with every kick. Trim your tank position to balance around your lungs so you do not have to fight a head heavy or foot heavy posture. Check for hose loops that catch current and reroute them for clean lines along the body. And of course, posture is one of the most important parts of streamlining your trim and balance. I mentioned it earlier. Aim for flat, balanced trim with knees slightly bent and fins lifted behind you. Keep your head up and looking forward and your butt flexed. Imagine squeezing a penny between those cheeks. Ultimately, streamlining your gear and keeping good trim, posture, and balance is a long-going effort. You'll constantly be shifting things around as you get gear configuration changes or mess around with things. So it is a skill and not a one-time effort. That's important. It's something that you'll learn to adapt and grow skills around. And of course, it also takes practice. In addition to streamlining, it's important to recognize the depth at which you're consuming your gas. As deeper you are, the more you consume. It's directly proportional to the atmospheres of your depth. So if you're at 30 meters or 100 feet, which is 4 atmospheres, you're consuming 3 times as much gas as you would at 10 meters or 33 feet, which is 2 atmospheres. So a part of your streamlining training, you can also be trying to pin yourself to optimal depths to get the most out of your gas as a cheat code. Deeper isn't always better when it comes to gas consumption. Of course, stick with your group, but if positioning allows, you should err on the shallower side to conserve gas. Good streamlining and positioning routinely saves up to 20% of your gas, makes cutting through water easier, and ensures your fins stay off the ground blowing up a bunch of silt from the ground. Once your profile is clean and quiet, your kicks can do more with less. Which brings us to propulsion. Watch turtles and sea lions for a minute and you will see precision without wasted motion. To thrash like they are riding an underwater bicycle, churn a lot of water, but do not move very far. Your fins are your engine and technique is your fuel economy. Avoid the bicycle kick because it drops your hips, breaks trim, and creates turbulence that steals energy. Instead, practice controlled flutter and frog kicks and learn where each shine. Both are excellent techniques when done smoothly inside your Streamline profile. A good frog kick that has a nice glide can really help relax and not spike the heart rate, which is perfect cruising for most of your dive time. Use the glide to rest instead of rushing back into your next kick. Whether you're trying to master your frog kick or flutter, I have good videos that go into depth on those too. You can check those out on my channel as well. Aside from the flutter and frog kicks, there are 2 other specialty kicks that can round out your control. The helicopter kick lets you rotate in place for photography or navigation by scissoring the fins in opposite directions with minimal effort. The back kick or reverse kick lets you move backward without using your hands, which is invaluable when you need to open space in front of you without blowing out the bottom. Keep your arms still to reduce drag and conserve energy. Once you have all these kicks in your tool belt and mastered, you will find that each motion that you make in the water is controlled and precise, and that's where you want to be. And where should your arms be? It depends on your preference and also your trim, but you can cross your forearms gently in front of you or hold them out and balance them in front of you like this. Generally, I prefer to have them out like this because I can see my dive computer, I can see my notes and my compass, and any other gadgets that you have on your arms, they'll be right there, kind of like your HUD. Another note to help control your breathing while you're moving is also you can time your breathing with the rhythm of your kicks, and that helps you kind of relax. Now this mostly works with glides, so maybe not a flutter, but more for frog. But you can inhale to prepare for a stroke and exhale through the power phase and float the glide on a calm pause. And with this skill and all the skills discussed so far, you can also film yourself to see how you're progressing and where you might need work. It's sometimes hard to feel things out, especially how your finning techniques are or how your trim is or how your buoyancy control is. But you can grab a buddy, have them film you for at least 10 seconds of any motion and see where you might need work. Or maybe you're perfect, and that's great to show off. Keep practicing until you're perfect. But if you're not perfect, especially for kicks, is you want to make sure your hips aren't dropping. You want to make sure your fins track within your body's profile and that you're maintaining the glide before starting the next kick. Make progressive and tiny changes at a time so you can feel their effect on the next dive and see how you've improved on the next filming. And generally, let me say that you'll pick up flutter and frog fairly quickly, and then helicopter kick will be no problem. Back finning is usually the kick that a lot of people have a lot of problems with and need a lot of practice. So regardless of where you're at, practicing and you'll get these kicks down and be much more efficient for it. And this video wouldn't be complete if I also didn't tie this to cardio training. Of course, if you're able to fin in such a way your cardio system can handle it with ease, you're in a great spot. But if you're finning and your heart is starting to increase its rhythm, then you have some room for improvement, and cardio could be the thing for you. A strong aerobic system can just do more without working that hard, which means your heart is slower and needs less oxygen to be moved through your body. And it needs to get rid of less carbon dioxide as well. Something to keep in mind, especially when it comes to finning more efficient. You always want to keep your heart rate steady and calm, your breathing normal and ritual. Your finning shouldn't cause that heart rate to spike. Ultimately, efficient finning can reduce energy expenditure by up to 30%, which directly lowers gas use and leaves you fresher at the end of the dive. You now have 5 powerful ways to make every cylinder last longer and every dive feel better. On your very next dive, choose 1 or 2 of these skills as you focus and measure the effect at your safety stop by how steady you feel and how much pressure remains in your cylinder. And I'm not sure if you caught on, but you will notice that each of the skills I have introduced in this video build on top of one or the other. They're all kind of interlinked, and you will find that if you improve one, it improves another, and they will all slowly become easier as you practice each of them. So that's really cool. But you still need to practice all of them. So you need to rotate the skill that you're practicing on the next dive and keep stacking the gains until all 5 feel supernatural. And even when you're an experienced diver, you'll still need to practice these things to continue to keep it relevant and continue to improve just a little bit more for your level. And I mentioned a few other videos that I made through this video, but here are 2 good ones to check out next to build on top of everything I mentioned. Check out this video here to improve your buoyancy and master your wading, or this one next that goes into how to improve your frog. The more you know, the more you'll love and protect the ocean. Until next time.